The day after we buried Mom, my siblings finally showed up. Not to help pack her things or reminisce about childhood memories. They came with a realtor and eviction papers. I guess they thought living here as Mom's caretaker for 7 years made me nothing more than a live-in nurse who'd outlived her usefulness. My name is Reagan, and I'm the middle child who never learned to say no, the responsible one, the one who put her life on hold when Dad died and Mom's health started failing. While my older brother Van chased corporate success in Chicago and my younger sister Quinn built her Instagram-perfect life in LA, I was here, changing sheets, managing medications, holding Mom's hand through endless nights of pain. "We need to discuss the sale timeline," Van announced, striding into the living room like he owned the place. His girlfriend Alyssa trailed behind him, designer handbags swinging. Quinn perched on Mom's antique armchair, scrolling through her phone. "Sale timeline?" I kept my voice steady, though my hands shook as I set down my coffee mug. I wasn't aware we were selling. "Be reasonable, Reagan," Quinn sighed without looking up. "You can't afford to maintain this place on your own. We're doing you a favor." The realtor, a sharp-suited woman with too bright lipstick, spread papers across the coffee table. "The market's hot right now. We could list by next week." "I've already had interest from developers, Van added. "They'll tear it down, build luxury condos. Split 3 ways, we're looking at 7 figures each." I stared at the family photos on the mantel. Mom and Dad on their wedding day, the 5 of us at the beach, back when we were actually happy. And where exactly am I supposed to go? "There are plenty of nice apartments in your price range," Alyssa chimed in, as if she had any right to an opinion. "You could get a fresh start." A fresh start. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. After I gave up my career, my relationship, my entire life to care for our parents while you two couldn't be bothered to visit more than twice a year? Van's jaw tightened. "We contributed financially." "The bare minimum," I cut in, while I handled everything else. The doctor's appointments, the medications, the midnight emergencies. Where were you when Mom fell and broke her hip? When she needed chemotherapy? When Dad was dying? "Ancient history," Quinn waved her hand dismissively. "The point is, you never paid a dime toward this house. You lived here rent-free. Now it's time to be practical." I stood slowly, walked to Mom's old bureau. The second drawer stuck slightly. It always had. Inside, beneath her carefully folded scarves, lay a manila envelope. "Actually," I said, pulling out the deed, "Mom signed the house over to me last year. Full ownership. It's already done." The silence was deafening. Van snatched the paper, his face reddening as he scanned it. Quinn abandoned her phone, finally paying attention. This can't be real," Van sputtered. "Mom would never—" "Grace Morrison witnessed it," I said, naming our family attorney. "It's completely legal. Mom wanted to ensure I'd be taken care of after everything I sacrificed. She knew exactly what you two would try to pull." "You manipulated her," Quinn accused, standing now. "She was sick, confused." "She was perfectly lucid," I replied. "Unlike when you convinced her to add you as a signatory on her bank account, or when Van borrowed against Dad's life insurance without telling anyone." The realtor gathered her papers awkwardly. "I should go." "Yes, you should." I moved to the front door, holding it open. "And you can all leave with her. This is my house now. I earned it." "We'll fight this," Van threatened, his voice low. "You have no idea what you're doing." I met his gaze steadily. "No, brother. For the first time in my life, I know exactly what I'm doing. Now get out of my house." They left in a storm of threats and slammed doors. I stood in the sudden quiet, my heart pounding but my mind clear. Through the window, I watched Van punch the steering wheel of his BMW while Quinn gesticulated wildly on her phone. My hands were still shaking, but not from fear anymore. For years, I'd been the family doormat, the reliable one they could count on to cave in to their demands. They never imagined I'd grow a spine, but people change. And as I looked around the home I'd fought so hard to protect, I realized this was just the beginning. They thought they could bully me into submission one last time. Instead, they'd awakened something they never saw coming. A sister who was finally done being nice. They're claiming Mom wasn't mentally competent when she signed. I sat across from Grace Morrison in her downtown office, watching her review Van's legal threat. Can they do that? Grace removed her reading glasses, fixing me with the same steady gaze I'd known since childhood. They can try, but I documented everything thoroughly. Your mother knew exactly what she was doing. Tell me again, I said, needing to hear it. Tell me how it happened. She called me to the house last March. You were at the pharmacy picking up her prescriptions. Grace smiled softly. She said, I need to protect my Reagan. The others, they've made their choices. Then she signed the deed transfer right there at her kitchen table. My throat tightened. Van's lawyer is demanding her medical records. Of course he is. Grace pulled out a thick folder. Which is why I had her primary physician conduct a cognitive assessment the day before. Full mental capacity, documented and notarized. The knot in my chest loosened slightly. You thought of everything. Your mother did. She wasn't blind to what was happening, Reagan. She saw who showed up and who didn't. My phone buzzed. Another text from Quinn. You're making a huge mistake. Call me. I switched it off. They're telling everyone I manipulated her, that I'm unstable. Let them talk. Grace leaned forward. You were there every day for 7 years. Where were they when she needed her medication at 3 a.m.? When she couldn't keep food down during chemo? When she just needed someone to hold her hand? The memories hit hard. Mom's frail body shaking with sobs after another canceled visit from Quinn. Van's secretary sending flowers instead of him showing up for Dad's funeral. Me, alone in the emergency room at midnight, again and again and again. I gave up everything, I whispered. My job at the gallery, Otto, any chance at a normal life. And they gave up nothing, Grace finished, which is precisely why your mother made her choice. A knock at the door interrupted us. Grace's assistant entered with a courier envelope. This just arrived for Ms. Rivera, marked urgent. Inside was a formal notice from Van's attorney, demanding access to all financial records related to Mom's care over the past 5 years. They're fishing, Grace said, scanning the document. Looking for any mistake they can use against you. Did you keep records? Every receipt, every bill, every withdrawal. I'd learned early to document everything, knowing this day might come. But there's something else bothering me, something Dad said before he died about a trust fund, but I can't find any paperwork. Grace frowned. What trust fund? I don't know. He was pretty heavily medicated by then, but he kept saying I needed to ask Mom about it. I handled your parents' estate planning. There was no trust fund. Unless... I stopped, remembering something. Unless it was set up before you became their attorney. Mom mentioned once that they had someone else handling their finances when we were kids. Grace made a note. Give me the name if you remember it. I'll look into it. Walking home later, I passed the coffee shop where Otto and I used to meet every Sunday. He'd wanted to marry me, to build a life together. Instead, I'd chosen my family obligations. Last I heard, he was engaged to someone else. My phone buzzed again, this time a voicemail from Van. You think you're so clever, don't you? But we both know what really happened that last week before Mom died. You really want that getting out? I froze on the sidewalk, my blood running cold. What was he talking about? The house was dark when I arrived, but something felt off. The side gate was slightly ajar. Inside, nothing seemed disturbed, but there was a faint smell of cigarette smoke. Quinn's brand. In Mom's study, the filing cabinet drawers were all slightly open. They'd been looking for something. But what? I pulled out Dad's old letters, the ones I'd been reading earlier. There it was again, in his shaky handwriting. Make sure you ask your mother about the trust. It was meant for you, Reagan. Don't let them... The rest was illegible, but it was enough to know I was missing something big, something Van and Quinn might already know about. My phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. Check behind the painting in the dining room. RR for Robin, our next-door neighbor who'd lived here even longer than we had. I walked to the dining room, heart pounding. Behind Mom's favorite landscape painting was a small safe I'd never noticed before, and taped to the back of the frame was a key. The key felt heavy in my palm as I crossed the lawn to Robin's house. She opened the door before I could knock, ushering me inside with a finger to her lips. "I've been waiting for you to find it," she said, pouring 2 glasses of wine. "Your mother made me promise to wait until they showed their true colors." "You knew about the safe?" "I knew a lot of things." Robin settled into her armchair. "I've lived next door for 20 years, watched you kids grow up, watched you stay while they left. And 2 weeks ago, I watched Van break in through the back door while you were at the hospice with your mother." My hand tightened around the wine glass. "What did he take?" "Nothing. But he spent an hour in your father's study, burning papers in the fireplace." She leaned forward. "Your mother knew he would try something like this. That's why she gave me copies." Robin disappeared into her study, returning with a thick manila envelope. "Everything your father wanted you to know is in here, including details about that trust fund." I spread the documents across her coffee table. Bank statements, legal papers, a letter from Dad dated just weeks before his death. "My darling dusty spinster," I read aloud, Quinn's recent mocking words echoing my mother's old cruel nickname. "Always sacrificing yourself for everyone else." "Your mother regretted saying that," Robin interjected softly. "She told me it kept her awake at night, how she treated you." I continued reading. "The trust fund was set up when you were born. Your grandfather insisted each grandchild have one, but your mother and I were young and foolish. We let Van convince us to combine all 3 funds for his business venture. It failed spectacularly, but by then the money was gone. Your sister's portion, too. We've been trying to make it right ever since." "That's why they're so desperate for the house," Robin said. "It's the only asset left to cover what they lost." My phone buzzed. Quinn again. "You were always Mom's little puppet, her pathetic shadow. Give up the house, or everyone will know what a manipulative fraud you are." "They're getting nasty," Robin observed. "They've always been nasty. I just never fought back before." I picked up another document, a bank statement showing regular transfers from Dad's pension account to an offshore holding company. Van's company. "He was stealing from Dad even before he died," I whispered. "Mom must have known." "She knew a lot more than she let on." Robin pulled out her phone, showing me a video. "I took this the day Van broke in. Watch." The grainy security footage showed Van emerging from our house, stuffing papers into his briefcase. He made a phone call. "It's done. She'll never find the original will now. As far as anyone knows, Dad left everything to me." My hands shook as I gathered the papers. "I need to show these to Grace." "Be careful," Robin warned. "They're cornered animals now, and your sister's been parked down the street for an hour, watching your house." I peered through the blinds. Sure enough, Quinn's red Tesla sat idling at the corner. "Use my back door," Robin suggested, "and Reagan, there's something else you should know. The night your mother died at the hospice, Van visited her first, alone. The nurse told me he was there for almost an hour." A chill ran through me. Why didn't anyone tell me? Because he signed in under a different name, but I recognized him leaving. He looked satisfied. I remembered Van's threatening voicemail. "We both know what really happened that last week before Mom died. I need to talk to that nurse," I said, standing. "Already got her number." Robin handed me a slip of paper. "Her name's Maria. She said she's been waiting for someone to ask." Walking home through the growing darkness, I took the long way around to avoid Quinn. The house felt different now, heavy with secrets. In Dad's study, I knelt by the fireplace, reaching deep into the ashes. My fingers found something, a partially burned envelope, the edges crumbling, but the contents still legible. My phone lit up with a text from Grace. "Don't react to anything they say or do. Just got a call from Otto. He's working at the county records office now. Says Van was there yesterday, trying to access sealed documents about your mother's death certificate. Another text followed quickly. Be careful. They're not just after the house anymore. This is about covering their tracks. I unfolded the burnt paper from the fireplace. Through the char marks, I could make out what looked like a modified version of Dad's will, dated just weeks before his death. But the signature, something was off about it. The sound of breaking glass downstairs made me freeze. Then Quinn's voice. Reagan, we need to talk. Now. I shoved the burnt will into my pocket and grabbed my phone, quickly texting Robin, Quinn broke in. Call police. Then I heard footsteps on the stairs. I know you're up there, Quinn called out. Stop being so dramatic and just talk to me. I stepped into the hallway. Quinn stood at the top of the stairs, still wearing her designer workout gear, looking completely unrepentant about breaking into my house. There's nothing to talk about, I said. You broke a window. I'm calling the police. Oh, please. She rolled her eyes. It's still my childhood home, and we both know you won't call the cops on family. You stopped being family the moment you and Van tried to steal my house. She advanced toward me, her perfectly manicured hand trailing along the wall. Is that what you think this is about? The house? God, you're even more naive than Mom said. What's it about then, Quinn? The trust fund you and Van lost? She stopped short, her fake smile faltering. How did you... I know everything. The combined trusts, Van's failed business, the money he stole from Dad's pension. Should I keep going? You don't know anything, she snapped, but her voice shook slightly. Van said you'd try to twist things. Van's been lying to you for years, just like he lied about Dad's will. I pulled out the burnt document. Recognize this? Your brother's handiwork? She snatched it, scanning the charred pages. Where did you get this? The fireplace. Van's not as thorough as he thinks. Headlights swept across the windows as a car pulled into the driveway. Quinn tensed. That'll be the police, I said. Want to explain why you broke in? This isn't over. She thrust the paper back at me and hurried down the stairs. But when the front door opened, it wasn't the police. It was Otto. My heart stopped. He looked exactly the same. Tall, kind-faced, the slight gray at his temples the only sign of the 5 years since I'd ended things. Reagan? He looked between us, confused. Your neighbor called me, said you might need help. Quinn's eyes narrowed. Well, if it isn't the one that got away, still cleaning up Reagan's messes? Get out, Quinn, I said quietly, before I press charges. She laughed, but it sounded hollow. You know what's funny? Mom always said you were the smart one, the responsible one, but you're just as clueless now as you were then. She brushed past Otto and slammed the door behind her. Through the window, I watched her speed away in her Tesla. You okay? Otto asked, stepping closer. Robin said there's been trouble. That's an understatement. I showed him the burnt will. Think you could look at this, with your legal background? He studied it under the hallway light. This is definitely forged. Look at the notary stamp. It's dated 3 weeks after your father died. Can you prove it? Better than that. He pulled out his phone. I can access the county records database. Your father's real will should be... He tapped the screen. That's weird. What? Someone tried to access it yesterday multiple times, got flagged in the system. Van, I said. He's trying to cover his tracks. Otto's eyes met mine. Reagan, what exactly is going on here? I told him everything. The house, the trust fund, Robin's video of Van burning documents, the mysterious circumstances around Mom's death. Jesus, he whispered when I finished. This is way bigger than a property dispute. I know, and I'm scared, Otto. Really scared. He reached for my hand, then seemed to think better of it. Let me help. I can pull records, track paper trails. If Van's been manipulating documents... A notification pinged on my phone. A bank alert. Someone had tried to access Mom's account from an IP address in Chicago. Van's getting desperate, Otto said, reading over my shoulder. Good, I replied. Desperate people make mistakes. Another text from Robin. Maria the nurse agreed to meet. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. She says there's something you need to know about your mother's last day. Otto squeezed my shoulder. You shouldn't go alone. I won't, I said. But first, I need you to help me understand exactly what Van's been doing with these forged documents. Because whatever happened that last week, whatever he's trying to hide, I think it's all connected. Where do we start? I led him to Dad's study. With the ashes in this fireplace, Van may have burned the evidence, but he didn't know about Mom's copies. Time to put it all together. The hospice coffee shop was nearly empty when Maria slid into the seat across from me. She looked nervous, constantly checking over her shoulder. I could lose my job for this, she said, pulling out a thin folder. But what happened that night? It wasn't right. Otto sat beside me, his presence steadying. Take your time. Your brother came in around 8 p.m., Maria began. Signed in as Michael Stevens. He had papers with him, legal documents. I heard him pressuring your mother to sign. My throat tightened. She was heavily medicated. Exactly. Maria's hands shook as she opened the folder. She wasn't competent to sign anything, but he insisted, said it was just routine paperwork about her care. Did you see what she signed? No, but afterward he made a phone call in the hallway. I heard him say, "It's done. She signed it. Now nobody can trace the money." Otto leaned forward. Did you document any of this? Maria nodded, sliding over a paper. My shift notes. I wrote everything down, including the exact time and what I overheard. I also... She hesitated. I took photos of your mother's visitor log, the real one, before he replaced it with a new sheet that didn't show his visit. The images on her phone showed clear evidence of tampering. Van's fake name, the original log, everything. 2 hours later, Maria continued, your mother's heart rate dropped suddenly. It wasn't what we expected, given her condition. The implication hung heavy in the air. Are you saying... I couldn't finish the sentence. I'm saying you should request a toxicology report. Maria stood up. That's all I can tell you, but whatever your brother was covering up, it was worth killing for. After she left, Otto and I sat in stunned silence. We need to call Grace, he finally said. Not yet. I pulled out my phone, showing him the text I'd just received from Quinn. Need to talk, alone. I know what Van did. It's a trap, Otto warned. Probably, but she sounds scared. Then let's be smart about this. He pulled out his laptop. While you meet Quinn, I'll start digging into Van's financials. My clearance at the county office lets me access certain records. I agreed to meet Quinn at a busy restaurant downtown. She was already there when I arrived, looking uncharacteristically disheveled. Van's gone crazy, she blurted before I could sit down. He's threatening me now, too. Why? Because I found this. She pulled out her phone, showing me an email thread between Van and Mom's old broker. He didn't just steal from Dad's pension. He's been embezzling from his own company. Millions! The house was supposed to cover his tracks before the audit next month. And Mom found out? Quinn nodded, tears smearing her mascara. That's why he... She broke down completely. My phone buzzed. Otto. Found something big. Van transferred huge sums offshore the day after your mother died. Also, Alyssa just called Grace. Says she has proof of criminal activity. I know about the offshore accounts, I told Quinn, and the forged will, and what happened at the hospice. He made me help him, she whispered. Said we'd both go down if anyone found out. But Reagan, I swear I didn't know he was going to... Going to what, Quinn? Kill our mother? She flinched. He said it would look natural, that she was dying anyway. I didn't think he'd actually... My hands shook as I pulled out my phone to call Grace. But before I could dial, another text came through, from Van himself. Final warning, little sister. Back off or everything burns, including that precious house. Then from Robin. Fire trucks at your house. Come now. Quinn saw the message and went pale. Oh God, he really did it. I was already running to my car. Through the downtown traffic, I could see smoke rising from my neighborhood, from my home, from everything Mom had tried to protect. But Van had made a crucial mistake. He didn't know about the safe, about the documents Robin kept, about Maria's evidence, about Otto's access to county records. He thought he could bury his crimes in ashes. Again. My phone rang. Grace. Don't go home. Meet me at my office. Alyssa's here with proof of everything. And Reagan, the police are on their way to arrest Van. I looked at Quinn, slumped in my passenger seat. You need to decide right now. Are you with him, or are you going to tell the truth? She wiped her eyes, straightened her spine. I'll tell them everything. I'm done being afraid of him. As we raced through the streets, I realized something. Van hadn't just tried to destroy evidence. He'd tried to destroy me. But from these ashes, justice would finally rise. Grace's office was chaos when Quinn and I arrived. Alyssa paced nervously, clutching a USB drive. Otto hunched over his laptop, printing documents. 3 police detectives occupied the conference room. The fire was contained, Grace said, meeting us at the door. Mostly smoke damage to the kitchen. They found gasoline traces. Van's not answering his phone, Alyssa said. But I have everything. Recordings, emails, bank statements. He's been laundering money through shell companies for years. One of the detectives approached us. Ms. Rivera, we need your statement about the hospice incident. For the next hour, I recounted everything. Maria's evidence, the forged documents, the suspicious circumstances of Mom's death. Quinn corroborated it all, her voice shaking as she described Van's escalating desperation. He said nobody would look too closely at another terminal cancer patient dying, Quinn admitted. He needed her signature on those papers before he gave her an overdose of morphine, Alyssa finished. He told me it was mercy, that she was suffering anyway. She handed the USB drive to the detective. It's all here, including his confession to me. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Roof, now, or I release proof that you killed Mom for the inheritance. He's here, I showed the message to the detective. We'll send officers up. No, I interrupted. He's desperate. Let me talk to him first. Reagan, no, Otto protested. I need to hear him say it. I need to know why. The detective nodded reluctantly. We'll be right behind you. First sign of trouble, we move in. The evening air was cool on the roof. Van stood near the edge, his expensive suit wrinkled, his face haggard. It was supposed to be mine, he said as I approached. All of it. I was the oldest. So you killed our mother for it? She was dying anyway, he shouted. Another week, maybe 2. I just accelerated things before she could change the will again. But she already had, I said. She gave me the house months before. You killed her for nothing. He laughed bitterly. Nothing? That house was my last chance to cover the missing money before the audit. $40 million, Reagan. Do you understand what they'll do to me when they find out? They already know. Alyssa recorded everything. The color drained from his face. She wouldn't. She did. It's over, Van. The police are here. Quinn's telling them everything. Quinn? His expression turned ugly. That little parasite only survived this long because I carried her, just like I carried this whole family. You destroyed this family, I corrected. You stole our trust funds. You embezzled from your company. You killed our mother. And you're just so perfect, aren't you? He stepped closer, menacing. The dutiful daughter, the martyr. Did you ever tell anyone how you begged Mom to change her will? How you manipulated her when she was weak? That's your story, not mine, and we both know it. It's my word against yours. No, I said quietly. It's your word against evidence. Security footage, bank records, medical reports, Maria's testimony, Alyssa's recordings, Quinn's statement. You're finished. He glanced toward the roof's edge. Maybe, But I'm taking you down with me. He lunged suddenly, grabbing my arm. But before he could move, Otto burst through the roof door, tackling him. Police swarmed in seconds later. "Van Rivera," the detective announced, cuffing him. "You're under arrest for the murder of Eleanor Rivera, embezzlement, fraud." I watched them lead him away, his threats echoing across the roof. "This isn't over. You think you've won? I'll destroy you." Back in Grace's office, Quinn hugged me for the first time in years. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, "for everything." "We found the original will," Otto announced, holding up a document. "The real one, from before Van's forgery. Your father left the house to your mother, and she left it to you. It's all legal." "And the trust fund money?" Quinn asked. "Gone," Grace said. "But Van's assets will be seized. Some of it might be recoverable." My phone buzzed one last time. Robin. "Fire damage isn't bad, mostly smoke, but you'll need somewhere to stay while it's cleaned up." "Stay with me," Otto offered quietly, "just until the house is fixed." I looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time since he'd come back into my life. "I need time," I said, "to process everything." He nodded, understanding. "I'll be here. When you're ready." Quinn touched my arm. "What happens now?" "Now?" I thought about Mom, about justice, about family. Now we rebuild, but differently this time, with truth. The city lights sparkled beyond Grace's windows as night fell. Somewhere out there, Van sat in a cell, his empire crumbling. But here, in this moment, surrounded by people who chose truth over greed, I finally felt something I hadn't in years. Peace. The courthouse buzzed with tension as Van's trial began. 3 months had passed since his arrest, but seeing him in an orange jumpsuit, shuffling in with shackled feet, still felt surreal. "All rise," the bailiff called. Quinn sat beside me in the gallery, gripping my hand. Behind us, Otto and Grace provided silent support. Even Robin had come, armed with her security footage evidence. The prosecutor laid out the case methodically: financial fraud, document forgery, and finally, the premeditated murder of our mother. Each piece of evidence hit like a physical blow. The defendant visited Eleanor Rivera at Sunset Hospice on April 15th, the prosecutor stated. Nurse Maria Thompson will now testify about what she witnessed that night. Maria took the stand, her voice steady as she described Van's actions. "He insisted on being alone with Mrs. Rivera. When I checked vital signs later, her morphine levels were significantly elevated. Van's attorney tried to discredit her. Isn't it possible Mrs. Rivera simply declined naturally?" "The toxicology report shows lethal levels of morphine," Maria replied. "That doesn't happen naturally." Next came Alyssa, looking uncomfortable but determined. She played the damning recording. Van's voice, slightly slurred from whiskey, confessing everything. "Had to shut her up," his recorded voice echoed through the courtroom. "She knew about the money, threatened to tell the board. Stupid old woman couldn't keep her mouth shut." Van stared straight ahead, jaw clenched. His attorney looked increasingly defeated. The financial evidence was overwhelming. Otto had traced every fraudulent transaction, every hidden account. The prosecutor displayed a chart showing the millions Van had stolen, including our trust funds. "And finally," the prosecutor said, "we have evidence of the defendant's attempt to destroy evidence by burning down his sister's home." Robin's security footage played on the courtroom screens. Van's distinctive silhouette, pouring gasoline around the house's perimeter. The flash of a lighter. During a brief recess, Quinn whispered, "He's really going away for this, isn't he?" "For a long time," Grace confirmed. The defense called character witnesses, business associates who praised Van's leadership, his philanthropy. But under cross-examination, each one admitted knowledge of his financial irregularities. Then, surprisingly, Van himself took the stand. "My sister paints me as a monster," he began, his voice thick with fake emotion. "But everything I did was for the family. The trust funds, I was investing in our future, Mom's death? She was suffering. I showed mercy. Objection, the prosecutor stood. The defendant is testifying to facts, not in evidence. Sustained. Van's composure cracked. This is ridiculous. I built everything. I carried this family while Reagan played nursemaid and Quinn played socialite. I deserved... Mr. Rivera, the judge warned, control yourself. You want to know what really happened? Van shouted, pointing at me. She manipulated Mom, turned her against me. She's the real criminal here. The judge banged his gavel. Remove the defendant until he can compose himself. As guards led Van out, he lunged toward me. This isn't over. You hear me? I'll appeal. The doors closed on his threats. The jury deliberated for only 2 hours. On the count of first-degree murder, how do you find? Guilty. On the counts of financial fraud and embezzlement? Guilty. On the count of attempted arson? Guilty. The judge's sentence was severe. Life imprisonment without possibility of parole, plus 30 years for the financial crimes. All assets seized. Van stood rigid as the sentence was read, but I saw his hands trembling. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. Quinn faced the cameras bravely. Justice was served today. Our mother can rest in peace. Otto shielded me from the chaos, leading me to his car. You okay? I don't know what I am, I admitted. Back at the house, now restored from the fire damage, Robin waited with dinner. I saw the verdict online. How do you feel? Like I can finally breathe, I said, surprising myself with the truth of it. Grace arrived later with papers. The seized assets will be liquidated. It won't recover everything, but you and Quinn will each receive substantial restitution. Quinn studied the documents. What about Van's wife? Their kids? Protected trusts, Grace assured her. They won't suffer for his crimes. As evening fell, I stood in Mom's old room, now cleared of medical equipment and memories of suffering. Otto appeared in the doorway. Stay, I said before he could speak. Not just tonight. Stay. He crossed the room slowly, taking my hand. Are you sure? I'm sure about this. Life's too short for fear. Mom taught me that in the end. Through the window, I watched the sun set on the first day of my new life. One without Van's shadow, without secrets, without guilt. Quinn called up the stairs. Dinner's getting cold. Coming, I replied, squeezing Otto's hand. It was time to start living again. The morning sun streamed through Mom's garden windows as I sorted through the last box of her belongings. Quinn sat cross-legged on the floor beside me, helping organize photos and letters. Remember this? She held up a faded Polaroid of the 3 of us kids at the beach. Before everything got complicated. Before Van got greedy, I corrected, then paused at her flinch. Sorry, I know he's still your brother. He made his choices. She set the photo aside. Just like I made mine, I'm still trying to make up for them. The doorbell rang. Grace with the final paperwork from Van's asset liquidation. Otto let her in, carrying coffee for everyone. The last of the restitution funds have been distributed, Grace announced, spreading documents across the kitchen table. The company's new board has implemented all the recommended safeguards. And Van? Quinn asked quietly. Still maintaining his innocence, but his appeal was denied yesterday. Grace sipped her coffee. His wife filed for divorce this morning. I signed where indicated, then passed the pen to Quinn. What about the trust fund records? Recovered most of them. Your grandfather's original intentions are now legally protected. Any future grandchildren will have secured trusts that can't be consolidated or accessed by anyone else. Otto squeezed my shoulder gently at the mention of future children. We were taking things slow, rebuilding trust, but the possibility hung sweet in the air. The back door opened and Robin entered, carrying a small package. Special delivery from Maria. She thought you should have this. Inside was Mom's old journal, its pages filled with her flowing script. A note fell out. Found this while cleaning the hospice storage. Thought it belonged with family who truly cared. Maria. Quinn read aloud from a random page. Reagan stayed again tonight. My stubborn, beautiful girl. She thinks I don't see her sacrifice, but I see everything. I see who stays. I see who loves. My throat tightened. That's enough. No, Quinn insisted, it's not. We need to hear this. I need to hear this. She continued reading. Van visits with schemes, Quinn with excuses. But Reagan just loves, simply, completely. I hope someday she knows how much I treasured that. Robin touched my arm. She knew, dear. That's why she protected you in the end. Speaking of protection, Otto said, the security system's been upgraded. No one's getting in here uninvited again. I walked to the garden, where fresh flowers bloomed where Van's gasoline had once soaked the ground. The others followed. I had something made, Quinn said, unveiling a small stone marker. For the garden. The inscription read, Eleanor's garden, where love bloomed and stayed. It's perfect, I whispered. Grace checked her watch. I should go. One last thing. Van's daughter called. She'd like to visit sometime if you're open to it. Of course, I said. She's family. The door's always open for those who come with love. As Grace left, Otto started grilling lunch. Quinn and Robin set the patio table, their easy chatter filling the air. The garden bloomed around us, renewed after the fire, just as we were renewed after the storm. I've been thinking, Quinn said, returning from the kitchen with plates. Maybe I could move back? Not here, but nearby. Start fresh. There's a house for sale on my street, Robin offered. Walking distance. You'd leave L.A.? I asked Quinn. L.A. was about being seen. I want to be somewhere I can just be. Otto brought out the food, and we gathered around the table, this makeshift family built from the ashes of the old one. No more secrets, no more lies, just truth and time and healing. A toast, Robin proposed, raising her glass. To Eleanor, who knew exactly what she was doing when she gave this house to the one person who truly loved it. To Mom, Quinn echoed. To staying, Otto added, his eyes meeting mine. I looked around at these people who chose to remain, to rebuild, to love despite everything. The garden bloomed, the house stood strong, and finally, I was exactly where I belonged. To home, I said, and to those who make it one. The wind rustled through Mom's roses, carrying their sweet scent across the patio. Somewhere inside, her journal waited with more words of love. But right here, right now, surrounded by those who chose to stay, I felt her presence more clearly than any written word could capture. This was her real legacy, not the house, not the money, but the love that remained when everything else burned away.